This is Michael Popok for the brand new Legal AF YouTube channel. Take a moment and go out and free subscribe. This is in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, another pro-democracy channel with content that you like at the intersection of law and politics. Let's dive into a new scandal involving Leonard Leo, that shadowy figure that's behind the Federalist Society and George Mason University and Scalia Law School, and the placement of MAGA right-wing Supreme Court justices in the United States Supreme Court. In effect, Leonard Leo, before our very eyes, has hijacked the United States Supreme Court and helped install the 6-3 alt-right MAGA majority, and has then spent the rest of the last few years trying to dismantle the administrative state around environmental protection. For example, he is in control through another series of shadowy organizations that he runs of an entity called the American Energy Institute, AEI. Its arch enemy is a truly independent and neutral organization called the Environmental Law Institute, ELI. AEI, ELI sounds like a children's nursery rhyme, but it's more nefarious than that. AEI is a right-wing MAGA organization masquerading as a think tank that's trying to teach the world, and particularly the United States Supreme Court, that climate change is a myth, that climate science is quackery and should be ignored, and that big oil and fossil fuels are great for the world, great for the environment. There's no such thing as global warming, that type of thing. Now, put this in conjunction with what Leonard Leo has been able to do through his alt-right MAGA Supreme Court. Just this summer, in a little reported decision, although we talked a lot about it on Legal AF, he was able, through his minions on the Supreme Court, to take away and dismantle the entirety of our administrative state. That is the administrative law that helps regulate industry and protect Americans. And that was in a case that destroyed the Chevron principle, or the Chevron doctrine, which rightly said at the time that the experts in each industry who really know their stuff, the scientists, the mathematicians, the economists, depending upon the industry, should be given a lot of deference about what their opinions are. And it shouldn't be federal judges who know nothing about a certain industry, like how to clean up water or clean up air or run a business or how to protect workers. Get him out of that world, or her out of that world, and defer with some deference to the expertise of people in the know. That's gone now, even though I learned it back in 1984 when that law came onto the books, and has been the law of the land ever since. Ever since this summer, the law is gone. Now, federal judges have been told by the Supreme Court that it is their duty to make the decision in the first place, in the first impression, and not to give any deference whatsoever to any of the scientific data or economic data or information by the people in the know who are the regulators. And that was the first step. It's a two-step process for Leonard Leo to hijack the Supreme Court and to shove his agenda down the throats of America. They've been trying to get rid of the administrative state, which they see controlled by Democrats and lifelong civil servants and bureaucrats forever. It's been the bane of, whether you call yourself conservative or MAGA, they want to get rid of the regulators. They want to get rid of the IRS. They want to get rid of the education department that sets regulations about how to protect our nation's children. They want to get rid of the Environmental Protection Agency, which protects our water and our air. They'd like to get rid of the earth if they could, if it would make them some money. So the AEI, back to the children's rhyme or nursery rhyme, is the MAGA one. It's the one that's controlled by big fossil, big oil. And they want to teach the world not to sing like Coca-Cola so many years ago. They want to teach the world that climate science is a myth, that the global warming is a myth, and that the oil companies and fossil fuel companies should just be allowed with unbridled action and without regulation should be able to go about their business. ELI stands in their way. It's a truly nonpartisan think tank that has a fair amount of representation even of the petroleum industry. It's known as I said before, the Environmental Law Institute. It has a climate judge project that has been driving MAGA and Leonard Leo up the wall, because it's been holding seminars and classes to teach judges and lawyers about climate science. and about the reality of global warming so that they understand that they have a framework around which, when they have to make a decision about a case before them that involves the climate or environment, they kind of know what they're talking about. It's a tutorial. But of course, MAGA doesn't want that. MAGA doesn't want science to be introduced into thought process or into judicial decision making. So AEI hates ELI. And they say that it's instead an ex parte or inappropriate, corrupt way to try to make an argument to a judge before a case is even before him. In fact, the ELI it's not left-leaning at all, even though you'd think it was if you listen to the propaganda coming out of Leonard Leo and AEI. ELI is not left-wing leaning. It is, I'll tell you who's on the board and on the board of advisors: Shell, British Petroleum, representatives for Chevron, representatives for Sunoco. Does this sound like a bunch of lefties to you? A bunch of Marxist communists to you? I don't think so. But what they're trying to do, and they're also assisting a lot of the lawsuits that have been brought by states like Hawaii. There's like 40 or 50 lawsuits. Cities and states have brought it against oil companies and petroleum companies, arguing that they have been downplaying the hazardous impacts and effects of their products for years, much to the harm of the American people. Those suits may be cut off at their knees and extinguished by a movement to hijack the court by Leonard Leo. In particular, a vigorous campaign against the United States Supreme Court to get them, and they already have decided that they're thinking about it, take up a case to kill the Hawaii case, to argue that anything that has to do with emissions, things that end up in the water or the air, is federal regulated, can't be state regulated, can't subject those companies to state tort law or state liability, only because there's been some sort of what we call ouster, some sort of preemption by the feds regulating an area. Because once the feds come in and regulate an area, states can't regulate in that same area. In some areas, there's what we call concurrent overlapping jurisdiction, but usually there is federal preemption. And they're arguing federal preemption to kill these 50 or 60 lawsuits. Now, I've been involved with the case a number of years ago coming out of the COVID crisis, and the PPP loans that were given, in which we had suits representing mom and pop agents who applied for the loans on behalf of other people and were entitled to a piece of the action as a commission. They were denied it. And then MAGA, on behalf of big banks, got a bill passed that killed all of our lawsuits. It was the first time in my life an act of Congress killed a case of mine in which I represented about 20 different entities around the country. So I get it, and I get what they're trying to do. And they're trying to get the Supreme Court to do it because that's been Leonard Leo's goal in life, this shady, secretive, shadow controller, covert operator for the long, long time. And now he thinks he's got the Supreme Court in his sights. He's got the votes. He's got the entities. He's got the parallel shadow companies that are all lobbying, that are all before him. He's got at least one, if not 6 Supreme Court justices. He's got Ginny Thomas in his back pocket on behalf of Clarence Thomas. And he's basically co-opted and captured the AEI, the American Energy Institute, through another one of his entities called CRC Advisors. They always have these sort of run-of-the-mill names or things that are almost Orwellian, where their name is the opposite of what they do. So CRC Advisors is run by Leo, and they consult with AEI and help them write all of their reports and analysis attacking ELI in the marketplace, because AEI is a puppet for Leonard Leo. There's no other way to put it. And the reporting in The Guardian sort of makes that out. We're going to continue to follow the shadowy world that's run, the second world, if you will, that's run by Leonard Leo against American principles, and trying to continue to have the Supreme Court, while he has the numbers, do his bidding for the Federalists and the right wing and the MAGA. They've already dismantled the brick wall between church and state brick by brick over the last 4 years, because they got John Roberts in their back pocket. And they've got the others, including Amy Coney Barrett and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, in their back pocket. And the founding fathers and the framers of the Constitution, I'm sure, are spinning in their collective graves over what's happened We are moving towards a theocracy. We are moving towards a place where religion is paramount in a country that's supposed to be under the First Amendment, and the Establishment Clause is supposed to stay out of people's religious life or non-religious life. It's supposed to be okay to be an atheist or agnostic in this country, or practice witchcraft in this country under the First Amendment. But not so, says the Federalists, Leonard Leo, and the right-wing Supreme Court, that still believes that we are a Christian nation with Judeo-Christian ethics. I don't disagree that that was the original founding principles, but it can't be taken to the extent of eliminating the separation of church and state and the Establishment Clause in our Constitution. Leonard Leo's a bad guy. He has his fingers in lots of pies. He has federal judges come, speaking of trying to corruptly influence federal judiciary, which they accuse the AEI of doing. That's what he's doing. He has these seminars and these junkets out of the country, all expenses paid, where Supreme Court justices on the right wing end up going there, including like Judge Cannon, and often fail to report it on their disclosure forms, so he can get them for a long weekend with other like-minded people and try to influence decisions of the court before they end up there. That's ex parte lobbying at its worst. He's the one that holds the dinners that Sam Alito goes to. He's the one that helps arrange the substantial financial benefits to Clarence Thomas, to have his great nephew's tuition paid for, to have his birth home picked up and bought and money put in his pocket, have his vacation home sold. That's all through this web that Leonard Leo has spun around the right-wing MAGA institutions, catching everything in its reach. I'll continue to follow and analyze what's going on with Leonard Leo, the United States Supreme Court, for the new term that's coming up. Free subscribe to this channel right now. Legal AF YouTube, Legal AF MTN from Midas Touch Network. We are, of course, doing it in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. I'm still on the Midas Touch Network regularly, and so is our Legal AF podcast. But here, we're doing more at the intersection of law and politics than we were able to do on the Midas Touch Network, and we welcome you for being here. New show that's going to be on Legal AF MTN called Unprecedented. It's what you think. Once a week, we're going to be doing a show with a revolving group of contributors, Dina Dahl, Judge Ludig, and others. I hope to be on there to be interviewed to talk about the United States Supreme Court for the upcoming term, which starts the first Monday of October all the way through the end of July. Unprecedented. You can't find it anywhere else on YouTube except on Legal AF MTN, where you can now free subscribe. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF MTN exclusive content, until my next Legal AF podcast, this is Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.